Hey there. I am beyond excited to introduce you to Susan Hinton. She has been a part of the Global Grant Writers Collective for about a year and a half. She joined in May 2021. Before joining, Susan was an instructional design manager at a healthcare organization in Minneapolis. She joined because she was actually laid off and decided that the timing was right to start her own business. Since joining, she has worked with 7 different clients, 4 of which have given her repeat business. She's also served as the project manager and grant writer on a $13 million federal grant opportunity, which they won. I know you'll enjoy this conversation just as much as I did. Susan was really vulnerable and gave advice that was 10 out of 10. So let's dive in. Welcome, Sue. I am beyond jazzed that you are here to share parts of your story today. Thank you for coming on.
Mhm.
Awesome. So let's get started on our first question. So, my husband was actually listening to this podcast on Tuesday, I think, very recently, and they talked about how sometimes you have to actively get off of the hamster wheel of what you're doing in life to make that next big change. And I know in your intro you shared that you were actually laid off from your former position. And so it is a form of almost forceful getting off of the hamster wheel. And so I'm just wondering if you can share more about that journey and then kind of how you, in that moment of jumping off the hamster wheel, decided to jump into grant writing.
My husband and I can finally see the end of the retirement tunnel, right? So we know we know it's coming, and you just never think you're going to get there, but we're there. And so, our daughters are married and they're living on their own. We recently downsized to a townhome and cut back on a lot of our expenses in the process. And, we're fortunate that Mark, my husband, has a steady income. So financially, we were ready for me to take a chance to do something that provides me with flexibility and then the desire to manage myself and to make a difference. And those are things that I've always kind of wanted to do, but have never just felt like the timing was right. So this was the right timing.
That's awesome. So what led you to grant writing as the field? Because there's lots of different things and you came from healthcare. So in some aspects that's similar, but in a lot of aspects it's a whole new field.
Right. It's the thing that I found that was so similar is the writing. So I'm an English major. Very early in my career, I was an English teacher. So I'm very familiar with writing. And throughout my career, I've been a manager of instructional designers. Instructional designing is writing and
Mhm.
writing to spec. So I understand what that's like. So I really had once I started looking at the options for me for starting my own business, I really had I found that there was a nice link between my experience and things I enjoyed doing and the things that you needed for grant writing. And then at the time, I was supporting a nonprofit musical organization that I belong to.
Yeah.
And I was writing a grant for them. And my husband's when I was done writing for the evening, I was doing this in the evening, and he's like, I said, "Wow, that was so fun." And he said, "Why don't you consider grant writing?" Like, oh yeah, I guess I could do that for a living. Wow, that would be so cool.
Mhm.
So yeah, so
Oh, I
that's
love
what
that.
happened.
It takes that outside perspective, right? We say things all the time or
Totally.
things, and then someone will say something, and you're like, huh, yep, that's it. That's it. That's what I've been looking for.
Yeah. Thanks for stating the obvious, honey.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So, thinking back to kind of when you first joined, what did success look like for you?
Yeah, so when I first joined, I was fortunate to have 6 months of severance. So I was able to enter the space pretty slowly, the entrepreneurial space pretty slowly and deliberately.
Nice.
So for me at the time, success was just confirming that grant writing was really what I wanted to pursue as a business.
Wow.
And then when I found the collective, that was just that was so key to me because it meant that I had a place to go for step to step guidance, from everything to when and why to make a website, to how to promote myself, to what to do to find clients. So if I ever had a question about what to do or what to do next, there was always like a training module or somebody from the collective online that I could address it with.
Oh, I love that. Yay. Okay. So, obviously you confirmed that you loved grant writing, so you hit that success marker. How has your definition of success changed? Do you have a different kind of measure of success that you are envisioning for yourself?
Yeah, I would say I'm still a slow and steady wins the race
Mhm.
kind of person. But what has changed is my confidence that whatever goals or ways I want to measure success in the future, I will be able to achieve.
I
So, and that for me is just huge.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, so cool. So, what has been the most challenging aspect of your journey?
Probably learning how to manage myself
Mhm.
and my work days. Um, I have had to get over the notion that I have to be working
Mhm.
8 hours a day. Um, Learning how to measure my worth in a different way than how many hours I'm putting into the job
Yeah.
has been so much more difficult than
I,
I
yes.
anticipated. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm just now getting to the point where I have a routine that supports what I value
Mhm.
and doesn't leave me feeling guilty for not being in front of my computer for 8 hours, as if that means I'm working.
Right? Exactly. I know half the time I'm like, am I working? Is this working? Should I go on a hike? That would probably be a more fruitful use of this time. Oh, I love it.
Exactly.
So what's your favorite activity to do when you're not staring at the computer?
Well, I also play the flute.
Awesome.
So I play in a band and I play in an orchestra and I play in a flute choir. So
Oh,
I I've always wanted to practice more and I've always looked for a way to build it in. And so part of doing this with my job has meant that I've built in practicing. It's the first thing I do every morning when I get up now. And it just really brings me a lot of joy and makes me feel like I've already accomplished something by 8 o'clock in the morning. And I don't feel guilty for not working because
because there's no
it's
room for that guilt. No
no,
room.
right, exactly.
I love this. This is one, actually, it's a tool that my therapist was helping me with a couple of years ago. Of I was getting like very overwhelmed when I would wake up and feel like all I had to do was go to work. And she said, no, you got pick something that you're doing for you right away so that you're excited to get up, even if you love your job, right? Sometimes
Yep.
it's overwhelming to think only about work when we wake up. So I really love that you've been able to implement that because it just, yeah, it lights up the rest of the day, at least for me.
Yeah. And look how long it took me to figure that out. I can't believe it.
But you're doing it now and you're helping tons of women after you do it as well. So it's so good. What has been the most rewarding aspects of your journey?
I would say professionally,
Mhm.
working with people in organizations who are doing great work and who I can help directly.
Mhm.
Um, Using my project management and writing skills that I've honed over the years and adding research, which I didn't know that I would love so much. And, and then personally, just learning about myself and learning that I can still grow and change even now. I'm learning new software, new ways of working with new people, and my time is my own for better or worse to arrange in any way that suits me.
I love that. So you have backgrounds in education and healthcare. Did you bring those into your grant writing clients or are they in very different industries or anything? Yeah.
Yeah, they're no, they're all in very different industries. My clients are, I've got a long-term care client, so I guess that's kind of healthcare.
Ish, yeah.
Um, I had a charter school. I worked for the arts organization that I'm in. I worked for a stem cell research
Oh,
company. So
nice.
I guess that's kind of healthcare, but I knew nothing about stem cell research. I'm working for vocational rehab for the state of Minnesota and then also for the State Academy for the Blind. So they're, very different.
Yeah, and so meaningful. Oh, how very cool. So I want to back up to some of the challenging parts and your intentionality around being thoughtful and deliberate in your journey. I remember a conversation we had in January. So it was about what, 8 months, 9 months after you joined. And you were really vulnerable with me. And we talked about how other people had these different, they'd gotten a client already. And you're like, when is my first client going to come? You were working so hard and so intentionally, and it just wasn't happening. And then within like 4 months, you were too worried about going on vacation because you had so much work. So I just want to talk about, because sometimes it's really easy to compare ourselves to the others going through this
Mhm.
journey too. So I just, yeah, welcome your thoughts on how that worked for you, maybe how you navigated that. And then once that flywheel momentum took off, it just really flew.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, right? Um, yeah, it is really hard to not compare yourself. And um, but I guess what I would say is that you know yourself better than you know anybody else, and you, or you think you know yourself. And I thought I knew myself, and I sort of did, but again, I'm a slow and steady kind of person, and I'd say this kind of dovetails into actually what I consider something that is kind of weird. It's an accomplishment
Yeah.
of mine, and I would say um, when you first start out, our goal is to do informational interviews, right?
Yep.
And so everybody can do informational interviews. Nobody can't do an informational interview. I can do 30 informational interviews. I did 30 informational interviews, and I didn't get any work, direct work from any of those interviews. But the success was that I did them,
Mm,
and I got so much experience honing my message and learning what was important to nonprofits and
yeah.
feeling confident in my ability to represent myself in my work.
Hmm.
That by the time somebody actually came to me with legitimate work, I could talk to that work without even thinking about it because I had been through so many interviews, not all of which were successful,
Yeah.
but it helped me um, develop the things that I needed to develop. And what I needed to develop is different from what anybody else needs to develop. But I would say the common denominator is those informational interviews are just so important for so many things. And what I was stuck on at the time was that people were, oh, I had my first informational interview and I got work from that. And
Hmm.
I'm thinking, oh, I'm not getting any work. I must not be doing well. And it wasn't until I was able to look back that I realized the value isn't necessarily getting work from the interview. The value is what you're learning as you're going through. And I was learning with each interview how to address issues and how to talk to somebody who didn't want to talk to me or didn't seem
Hmm.
like they wanted to talk, and how to be okay with that. So um, does that answer your
It
question?
does. It totally does. And what I love about it is it's a reframing of the definition of success. So this other book that and podcast we've been kind of listening to is Emmanuel Acho's, who now I'm gonna forget the title of the book because I'm like in the moment, but he talks about how he's kind of taken away goal setting because when he has the goal of, let's say, I'm going to have 10 informational interviews and land 8 projects from them. If he doesn't reach that, he feels like a failure.
Mhm.
Versus if our definition of success is, I'm going to learn from every single one of these interviews, the options are endless. You will feel like you actually hit your goal because it's something within our control. We can always take a lesson learned. So I just love how you flipped that perspective because it can be really, really hard to feel like you're failing all of the time when really it's just the definition of success that we've created for ourselves.
Exactly. And I just think it's just doing the work.
Yeah.
Like, when it came right down to it, I thought I can do the work.
Hmm.
And if I define being successful by doing the work, then I'm successful. And eventually that will pay off. I just had to, keep that in the back of my mind. But I love that reframing of goals because I've never been a goal setter because I've never wanted to not reach a goal and
Yeah.
feel bad about it. So
Yeah. And
I
that's
like that.
okay, you're gonna love this book. When I think of the title, I will send it to you.
Me too.
Yeah, it's great. He has a very cool perspective. Oh, so cool. Okay. So I would love for you to complete this sentence.
Mhm.
The Global Grant Writers Collective has helped me.
I would say define what I want from my work life and how to get it. And then in the as a result of that, defining what I want in my personal life and also getting that, because the two are inextricably combined in many ways.
I am so, yes, I love that. It is such a reflection of Meredith. I think I came to her in the same way when I wanted to join. There was just this beauty and magic of entrepreneurship that allows you to have business and personal life that actually recognizes that both of them are happening at the same time. And I just love that. Yay. It's like a reflection all the way down. Okay. So rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
What's one word to describe your dream lifestyle?
Oh my gosh, cat-like.
I love that might be my favorite. Okay, your next vacation spot.
Probably the North Shore of Lake Superior in Minnesota. We usually get there about once a year.
Beautiful. Fiction or nonfiction?
Oh, fiction first.
What are you reading right now?
Well, so as a former English major, I have so many books going at the same time. I have books in every room in the house, basically. Plus I have audiobooks from the library. But I've got in the living room, I've got Louise Erdrich. She's my favorite Minnesota author. And I picked up a copy of The Watchmen for my mom for her birthday last year so that she would give it to me when she was done reading.
Yep. I just did that with my dad.
It's a great way to, keep the books coming.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
And I have several books by my bed. I've got one called Orfeo by Richard Powers and one called Clara and the Sun that my son-in-law gave to me for my birthday
Nice.
by Kazuo Ishiguro. And then on my phone, I love listening to mysteries and suspense novels. I'm listening to The Other People by C.J. Tudor. And then the only fiction or nonfiction book that I have right now is called The Invisible Child by Andrea Elliott.
Yeah.
And that's about a journalist who follows a young girl. Have you heard of it? Do you know
I think
it?
so, but yeah, explain.
Yeah, she follows a young girl for 8 years who's growing up in poverty in New York. So it's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I just
I
I
love that.
have too many to count, actually. It's
I
a
can
little
just see you
embarrassing.
in your cat-like self, like, oh, now I'm in the kitchen. I could sit down and read this book. Oh, now I'm in the dining room. I can read
Yeah,
this.
I can take this out to the patio and read this out here. It gets a little, I hope that it's keeping my brain active, trying to manage all these plots. Many times I have to go back and remind myself which suspense plot was this and who are these characters.
Oh, I love that. I'm sure it's helping your brain. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then last TV show you binged.
The morning show on Apple TV.
I love
My
that.
gosh, it's so good.
Yay. And what is your superpower?
So, beating my husband in upwards. It's the only game I can beat him at.
Oh, those are great answers. Okay, so my last question for you is if there's anyone out there debating about going for their dream or learning a new skill, what would you tell them? And then I'm going to add a layer to this because I know that you and I have had individual conversations about this, but you have done this as a 6-year-old woman. And it's just incredible for me as a younger woman to realize that no matter what stage of life we are, we have the power of creating the life we want. I've watched my mom do it at 45, and watching the older women in the collective is really, really inspiring to me. So I just would, yeah, ask you for anyone out there, but also for women who might be older and debating if they can actually switch their careers. I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would just say go for it. What are you waiting for? If I could have done this years ago, if I had known about this, I would have, and I know that it would have been such a perfect fit.
Mhm.
And I say that knowing that I also believe in timing. I mean, I think timing has so much to do with success, but a lot of timing is in our heads, right? So it's probably timing is a thing, but it could also be just a construct that we put on ourselves that either allows us or doesn't allow us to do something, right? So I think if grant writing is what you want to do, or even if it's something else, but for grant writing in particular, I can speak to, and for the collective in particular, like there would never be a better time than doing it now because you've got all this support. And support, it's like 360 support. It's support in training if that's what you like, but you can take courses one after another and do things in progression, or you can just go online and search. There's so many times I go online and I search the training for whatever for whatever I need at the time, and then it'll pull up every video that mentions whatever it is that I'm looking for, funding strategy or whatever.
Yeah.
So and then there's the collective itself with all these wonderful people who are just there to want to help you, and you can learn from them as well. So I would say, unless there's really a something you can't control,
Mm.
think about it and think about really whether that is something you can control or not. And you have to do the work. And, Meredith, and you always say this, it's not like you're not going to have to do the work. But boy, if you meet those requirements, if you feel like this is really something I want to try to do, then do it. Don't overthink it. Gosh, if I could go back to myself and talk to myself when I was in my 20s and 30s, I would definitely say don't overthink it. But that's easy for me to say now. And a lot about aging, I think just a lot of what comes with aging is just comfort in who you are and knowing who you are. But I don't know. I look at my girls and I think, boy, they know far more about who they are at their age than I ever did at mine. So I think even that is changing. Just
Also,
more
probably a
awareness.
compliment to your parenting. You know,
What?
I think it's also a compliment to your parenting.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll tell them that.
Yes, you should. I 100% think you should. Oh, Sue, thank you so much for your vulnerability. I have loved hearing more about your journey. I always, we have a lot of different conversations, but in these particular conversations, I always learn more things about you, and I just love it. So thank you. And I just am so grateful that we get to be able to support and watch you grow this business. It's really quite magical to be in your presence. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Great. See ya.